I know Donald Trump probably knows more than the average person about what's in these files.
And he promised
whatever's
in them, he promised he would release them if he became president.
Talking about it,
right?
When Joe Biden was in there.
So release them all, and then we can see if he's associated or not.
I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and assume that there's very good reason why all this information that's been confidential for as long as it has been should not be released to the entire world.
I love to sit down and watch Trump's bootlicking sycophants get dismantled on live telly, and we've got a cracking one here from a few months ago. But before we get into it, I'd love to give a big shout out to Stephen Tyson in Kentucky, Francesca in Maine, and D-Fibs in Ireland. It's people like you who make what we do here possible. Right then, the Epstein files. Remember when Trump swore up and down he'd release everything? Transparency, truth, justice for the American people. And now here we are with Pam Bondi getting subpoenaed because apparently the DOJ forgot how to be forthcoming. 5 members of his own party voted for that subpoena. 5. When your own side is calling you out, something's gone properly sideways. And what's the excuse? What's it always been? Democrat hoax. Every single time. We're about to watch that playbook unfold in real time. If you love watching me unravel disasters like this, please click that subscribe button. And while you're at it, if you'd like to get a shout out in my next video, then like the video, share it with a friend, and tell me your name and where you're watching from.
I asked her about this line in one of the emails. Of course he, Trump, knew about the girls.
Well, look, I can only imagine that for those that are reading this, they are thinking that he asked Elaine to stop is, pretty, self-explanatory, that he was already on the path to what eventually we know ended up with him kicking Jeffrey Epstein out of his club. I have to tell you, I woke up to the news of these emails and I somehow fell for the same scam that I've been falling for 10 years. Even though I've worked for Donald Trump for 10 years and seen this happen time and time again, I read these headlines. I thought I would see some kind of damning information, and all I saw was that people were accusing Donald Trump of something that we know didn't happen, because the girl that is mentioned in these emails, and I hate to even talk about her because I know she ended her life, which is a horrible thing to even have to continue speaking about, but she ended her life. Her name was redacted. We can ask Democrats why that is, but she already came out and said that nothing ever happened with Donald Trump, and that's the girl that's being discussed in these emails again, unfortunately, after taking her own life, obviously because of this entire situation. So I, again, don't understand why these emails continue to come out with absolutely zero information. If anything, they kind of make Donald Trump look even cleaner. He continues to be the most investigated man in the world with absolutely nothing coming out on him.
In another email, Democrats say they redacted the names because they're protecting all the survivors. These emails suggest to some that Donald Trump was absolutely aware of what Epstein was doing.
It's very possible. I think most people were aware. I grew up being pretty aware of what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. As long as I've known that name, I've kind of known what he was up to. It's unfortunate that we have to continue talking about it, knowing for many years, not only that we've known what was going on, but how many people, how many very high-profile people have been suspected of being associates of his and being involved in the same disgusting behavior. Again, I have seen nothing.
What really surprises many people, including Republicans, is why hasn't the Trump administration, why has Donald Trump not just released the lot, which is what he was campaigning on last year before the US presidential election? He promised they'd all be out there.
Well, look, I have been critical of the administration on this, really basically only because Pam Bondi came out and said, I have this information on my desk, it's going to be released. That's the mistake that I saw here, and I think they should be held accountable for that. She should not have said that. At the same time, I'm not someone that expected all this to come out. I know how our government works. Unfortunately, there's a lot of things that are not going to come out. I know Donald Trump probably knows more than the average person about what's in these files.
And he promised whatever's in them, he promised he would release them if he became president. So what is going on, do you think?
Well, look, I think when you arrive in Washington, D.C., you see a lot of things you didn't expect to see, and you realize then, while that information has been classified for as long as it has, I can only imagine the information being in those, the names being in those files, and what it would do to our country and the world if it was released, and that's what I'm assuming is being thought about.
OK, so you think it's OK that he's not fulfilled his promise?
You know, I think when he says that he's going to do as much as he can, he truly did believe he released as much as he could. I also think that he knows that if people are going to keep badgering, if people are going to keep asking questions, if Congress is going to get an opinion here, eventually, if they have to be released, they will be released. And he will say, look, I didn't want this. This is the reason I didn't want this out. It's out. Now we have to pick up the pieces and start over. This is what I warned you about.
Why does he keep calling them a Democrat hoax? I mean, they're clearly not, are they?
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious why, because
Why?
emails come out like this morning to try to paint Donald Trump in a negative light as if he had anything to do with Jeffrey Epstein and his behavior, and that's just not the case.
Which bit is the hoax? I mean, those emails existed. They've been released today. Which bit is the hoax?
The hoax is that no one cared to ask about the emails when Joe Biden was in the White House and they had all this information. They care when Donald Trump is in the White House so that they can try to tie him to these disgusting crimes. Well, that's the obvious hoax.
Maybe they also care because he promised he would release them if he became president, and now he's president and hasn't released them.
You're giving the media a lot more benefit than I will give them after what I've witnessed the last 10 years.
The media? No, I'm asking why the president doesn't just release them.
Well, no, you asked me why people think it's why he refers to it as a hoax, a Democrat hoax. He refers to it as a Democrat hoax because Democrats and the mainstream media are talking about this so that they can tie him to something disgusting, and they had no interest in talking about it when Joe Biden was in there.
So release them all, and then we can see if he's associated or not.
I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and assume that there is very good reason why all this information that's been confidential for as long as it has been should not be released to the entire world.
Right, so let me just process what we've witnessed here, because my head is genuinely spinning. The defense we just heard boils down to this. Trump promised transparency, didn't deliver, and somehow that's fine because Washington is complicated and releasing information might be dangerous. That's it. That's the whole argument. He meant well, but then he got there and realised it was hard. Mate, that's not a defence. That's an admission of failure dressed up in a suit. And here's what kills me. This person actually said Trump released as much as he could. As much as he could? The man signed the Epstein Files Transparency Act himself. He literally put his name on legislation demanding full disclosure within 30 days. His own DOJ had to restore images featuring Trump after they mysteriously vanished from the initial release. We're supposed to believe that's transparency? The Democrat hoax line. I genuinely don't know how many times we have to hear this before people start laughing out loud. The files exist. The emails exist. The allegations exist. Calling something a hoax doesn't make it disappear. And notice how the goalposts keep shifting. First it was release everything. Then it became, well, actually, some things shouldn't come out. Now it's, if Congress keeps pushing, maybe eventually something will happen. That's not leadership. That's a man running out the clock hoping everyone forgets what he promised. And Pam Bondi. She reportedly said the information was sitting on her desk ready to go. Then nothing. Weeks pass. Months pass. 5 members of the GOP join with the opposition to subpoena her because even they've had enough of the stalling. When your own party is dragging you before Congress to explain yourself, you've lost the plot entirely. What really gets me is this framing that caring about Epstein's connections is somehow partisan. Bill Clinton testified. Hillary Clinton testified. They answered questions under oath. Meanwhile, Trump sits in the Oval Office calling the whole thing a hoax, while his own Justice Department plays hide-and-seek with documents. Who's actually being transparent here? Who's actually subjecting themselves to scrutiny? The argument that nobody cared when Biden was president is such transparent deflection. People have cared about this for years. The bipartisan support for the Transparency Act proves that. The only thing that's changed is who's now responsible for delivering on the promise and who's now failing to do so. And I keep coming back to that line. I can only imagine what it would do to our country and the world if it was released. Imagine what it would do? We're already imagining. That's the problem. Secrecy breeds speculation. Transparency is the cure, not the disease. Look, accountability isn't optional. It's not something you campaign on and then abandon when it becomes inconvenient. If there are legitimate security concerns, then explain them publicly. Make the case. Don't just wave your hands and say, "Trust me, it's complicated." I want to hear from you lot. Drop a comment below. Do you think we'll ever see full disclosure? Do you think this administration has any intention of keeping its promises on this? Let's have that conversation. Subscribe to the channel and let me know your name and where you're watching from, so I can give you a shout out in the next video. And if you'd like to support the work we do, please click the join button below to become a channel member. Oh, and if you enjoyed watching this Trump defender get absolutely grilled by a British journalist, I've got another one for you. Same energy, different interview. A Trump supporter calls into a radio show thinking they're going to make some brilliant point and, well, you'll see how that goes. Links on screen now. I'll see you there.